Welcome to Real Community Talks, a video and audio podcast dedicated to making real conversations with community influencers available to everyone. I'm your host, Matt DeSilva, and I meet with some of the dopest community influencers across the greater Toronto area who, maybe by the world standards, might be micro-level influencers, but I know are doing macro-level things. Stay tuned each Tuesday night as we dive into each guest's life, talk process, and get to hear their unique story which molded them into the person they are today. The stories you hear are not necessarily formulas for success, but examples of individuals who are making their dreams possible despite obstacles. I firmly believe that everyone has a unique story that could potentially change someone's entire perspective on their circumstance. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to Real Community Talks, where real conversations with community influencers are made available to everyone. I'm your host, Matt DeSilva, and on today's episode, we have one of my good friends since we were kids on the show today, Jess Spagnolo on the episode. Jess, thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
So for those two ways people who don't know who Jess is, and I don't know why you wouldn't, Jess is, are you ready for this? She is a visual artist / freelance painter who recently launched a super dope art collection on Society 6, which we'll get into a bit later on the show. She's a muralist for an independent company called Hand Painted Murals. She's a professional singer, songwriter, and musician who performs across Toronto and the GTA. From time to time, she's a volunteer soccer coach for the Salvation Army kids team and also volunteers through their community outreach programs. Among many other things, she is an entrepreneur, an avid traveler, having participated in multiple mission trips and even taught in China. She's on the worship team for her church. She is an obsessive Facebook marketplace browser. And most importantly, she's what she coins an avid nearby dog detector. So to start with, what exactly qualifies you to be an avid nearby dog detector?
You just detect the cuteness. You can smell it. I have literally stopped conversations with people because I'm like, I see it, dog. But, yeah.
But I mean, for those who don't, for those people who don't know, Jessica has like a husky, so she kind of goes like hiking with him all the time, and yeah, especially because you love nature and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. So before we get into kind of your origin story, I have to address one more thing. How do you not like chocolate? Like, are you even human?
Oh my gosh, I really need a Venn diagram for this because
there are
some that I do like and some that I don't like, and then there's like the in between that it really just depends on either my mood or how it's like what kind of chocolate it is.
So you will eat chocolate, just not
depends.
Oh, it depends on them.
Depends.
Okay.
I'm very, very picky.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You're not human. Okay. So with that, why don't we segue into what's your origin story? So who is Jess Spagnolo and where are you from?
Well, I'm from Toronto. I was born in St. Michael's Hospital, and I grew up here. I was raised here. Both my parents were immigrant. They immigrated to Canada from my dad from Italy and my mom from Mexico. So they settled into Toronto, and they married. They had my sister and I, and so yeah, we're the first generation Toronto born. I grew up going to Ossington Church, where I met you.
Shout outs.
We were 4 years old. You were 3. I was 4.
Probably. Yeah. You're a year older than me.
Yeah. That was fun times. Anyways, so I grew up going to church and just being a part of like any like art community or just coloring creativity. I don't know. But and there are a lot of things that happened throughout the years. My dad passed away in 2005, and that really paved a way for me in regards to where I am today and what I'm doing. Because growing up, I wanted to be a vet because I'm like, I love animals. I want to make sure they never die, which is like the harsh. That's completely wrong. Anyways, but it was through the loss of my dad that I really found who I was with my faith, and that really it was a snowball effect from there. And I really just embraced my creativity and art and music And God's really used me in the music and in venues and stuff. I've had opportunities to talk to people about the songs that I've written.
Awesome.
And like they want to know, oh, what's Ghost about? And I'm like, well,
I think that's one of my
not
favorites,
about Casper. It's a different ghost.
That's awesome.
But and with art as well, I just, like you said, I love nature and I love going out hiking. And for me, that's where I've really experienced the majesty and the glory of God. That's how he's revealed himself to me. And there are multiple scriptures. I gave them to you. I can't name them at the top of my head. Yeah. But they just talk about how nature itself reflects God's glory. And there's just no denying in who he is and what he's done. And I just love that. And I love to paint. And I just really love to paint nature and just things that I see, and just to be able to share with others just a glimpse of what the glory of what God has revealed to me through that. Yeah, so, awesome. And that's kind of like what I've been doing more recently. So, awesome, someone asked me they just asked me, they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, I turned to my friend, because he's known me for years, and he was like, you're a full-time artist. And I'm like, I guess. I'm like, because I'm not really not starving artist, but just full-time artist. Like a little bit of this and that. And,
for sure.
But
So one thing I kind of wanted, you kind of touched on it, is, you know, you when your dad passed away, you kind of got into the arts. So I guess it was more so like, not only was it a way for you to express, but it was kind of therapeutic, because like, I mean, I don't paint, nor do I have any artistic skills, but when I do like have like a painting on canvas session with like my youth, or sometimes like, you know, I see people do like those wine and paint nights or whatever, it's really therapeutic. So was that kind of like really helpful during that time?
Yeah, it was. Okay. It was actually, music is what I used first as an outlet before art. Yeah. I struggled a lot with just communicating my thoughts and just my emotions and stuff, and writing it out in a song, although the lyrics were really not the greatest, but that helped a lot. And that just kind of opened up the door for music. Yeah. Because then I was like, well, now I have to learn guitar. I can't just have these like I'm not a spoken word poet. Like I need a background music for this. For sure. So being Mexican and Italian, how do you like not hurt feelings and like choose a team for FIFA? I hurt feelings all the time.
I mean, Italy wasn't in FIFA this year. Not trying to throw shade, but kind of. I actually didn't mind. So you go for Mexico and FIFA.
You know what? It's their time. Italy had they had their time. True. They, 2006 that was 2006. They got they won. Yeah. That was what's he did. The headbutt. Yeah. I actually really remember that before they went into the penalty shots, and before the ball went into the net, I was already outside on my front porch just screaming. I'm like, ah!
Oh man. So you recently dropped some of your art collection on Society 6. So why don't you kind of talk about that process of how you got to do that, and kind of how people can get a hold of your art?
Yeah. So I came across Society 6 through some friends of mine that I have on Facebook, who have also released some of their art and their own content on there. And so I thought that was a really cool platform for artists and photographers, and anyone who just has that creative thumb. You can just upload like a really high resolution photo of your art, and then they will manufacture it and turn it into products that you can sell. So like prints, other canvases. You can make mugs, travel mugs, rugs, phone cases, laptop skins. There was a really have like serving trays. Like it's the most random things, and like I forgot what they're called. The cup holder. Anyways, other things.
Like coasters.
Coasters. Yeah. I'm like cup holders. No. Yeah, coasters. But so that was really cool when I saw that, and it was recent, maybe in the past 2 years, that I really thought of doing something more with my art, because I was just painting, and I was like, I really want to be able to turn this into like designs. Like I can turn it into like a laptop case or a phone case, or something, or just like make prints or something. And so it was really cool that I came across this, and I was like, oh, okay, I can start. Like, so it's been a really slow process, because I mean, like I have no background in business, so I'm just kind of following what multiple steps of other people, just picking and choosing what has worked for them and what has worked for them, and just trying to kind of put it together and see if it'll work for me. So and then when I got back from my travels, I was like, okay, now I really need to, like, I really want to do this now. And so that's when I really I also just started painting like mad woman. But it actually does get tiring, because it's, you know, it's physically demanding, just having your arm extended like this for like long periods of time. But it's been really rewarding, I think. And just kind of pushing through, like, you still plateau as an artist, as a painter. You have like these dry spells, and just like, you have painter's block, if that's a thing. But like, you just stare at the canvas, and it happened to me actually a couple of times, but you just kind of start painting, and then like the creativity will start flowing, and it's like, oh, okay, well, now let me add this. Like, I can turn this into this. And then and for me, like, I get a lot of my inspiration from scriptures, from scripture verses in the Bible. And so I always just kind of reflect back in there, and like I did a painting on like a deer that is based on the psalm that's you're gonna have to tell me this, because this is embarrassing.
Isn't not like as the deer?
Yes, as the deer panteth for the water. So I'm like thinking of this other verse of the willow tree, and like the willow that's like rooted by the stream, and I'm like, no, that's not the deer by the stream. That's not how. Well, I mean, kind of it is. Oh, wow, this is embarrassing. I hope this gets cut.
So I like you mentioned one thing, and I think it's so true, is sometimes you can get into like, you know, painter's block or writer's block. And sometimes when, like, obviously originally when we come into our love and our passion for a specific craft or art or you know, whatever it is, like even podcasting, like me, is, you know, you're so passionate about it. And then when it comes to like making money or doing something on a consistent basis, you can kind of go through that point where you're just like, I feel like I'm just doing this for creation's sake and not just for like passion's sake. So like, for instance, for me, sometimes, like, even though I love podcasting, I'm still trying to balance it with all these other things. But sometimes I'm just like the one thing I hate is, like, not that I hate it, it's just really tedious, is obviously, like, you know, recording and all that kind of stuff is fun, editing is fun, but then it's like having to do all like the back end work on the website and all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, I wish I had someone to do this for me, even though I know how to do it. But I guess, like, how do you how do you also just balance doing art for yourself? Like, is it just like, have you just got into this rhythm where you're just like, okay, making art? Like, do you still kind of just do stuff for yourself? And like, are there pieces that you're not going to commission out, or?
Yeah. Well, that's actually, it's interesting, because before I did art, I was in music, and I actually went to Seneca for independent music production. And there's actually a program that's just like a marketing program, or a class that we had to take. And so I realized there that I really enjoyed just like posting and like sharing things on social media. And like, that's a big thing when you're an independent artist or musician. Like, it's just you, like, no one else is posting your videos and sharing your concerts, your upcoming shows and stuff. So I really got into that, and I got used to that. And so for me, it's not as stressful, because I've already been used to it. And so I actually really enjoy doing that. And to the point where I'm starting to like ask people, I'm like, do you want me to do this for you? Can I manage this for you? But I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah. But I still do find time for myself, just because like I said, my schedule is very flexible. I work painting murals, and I also work part-time as a career. So I just have I have a lot of free time. Well, not a lot of free time, but I like manage well. Yeah. And so in that free time too, like, I'll find things that really that I enjoy. And even painting, sometimes like I'll just paint. I won't have any idea. I'll just stare at the canvas. I'm like, I feel like painting, but I don't know what to paint. Yeah. And so I'll just start like grabbing like colors and just like mixing them. And it's happened so many times where I just paint the background, and then I'll just like leave it. I'm like, cool, this is a nice like gradient color. So now what? And then I'll just like leave it for like a couple of days, and I'll come back to it later and be like, I think I'm gonna add like this to that, and then I just like it goes from there.
It's not always conventional. Like sometimes it's just, you know, a little piece here, a little, like, I guess some people, I mean, I'm not saying you can't do it in one sitting. Maybe some for you might be one sitting type of arts, or some might be like a few days or even months. What was the longest you spent on a painting?
Oh my gosh. Have you seen the elephant one that I have?
I think so, at your house, right?
That one? Yeah. It's like this huge 30 by 40 inch canvas of this elephant that at first it took probably 40 hours to do.
Wow.
Because I would just come back to it. And I honestly, I just knew that I wanted to paint an elephant, but I didn't really know like what I would do with it, or like how the style would be. I was just like, I'm just going in blind here. And as I was painting it, I think this is a thing that a lot of people have too, even if you're not professional artists, but even if you're just like painting at like a paint night or something, but you're starting a painting and it's not going the way you imagined it'd be going. And so you're just like, oh, I want to scrap this. I don't like this. I just want to like start over. I want to give up. But like I was at that stage for like a week, and I was like, I hate this, but I just kept doing it. I'm like, but I'm going to put a line here, but I hate this.
Yeah.
And so when I finished the painting, I just like didn't want to look at it for like a good week.
Yeah.
And then afterwards I came back to it, and it just like grew on me, and I'm like, you know what? I don't think I want to sell this painting. I think I just want to keep, like, it just grew on me. And I was like, I spent a lot of work on this.
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe it didn't turn out the way that I imagined it would, but it turned out even better.
Yeah.
But no, it's, that happens a lot with art and stuff. So
no, I totally get that, because like there's some things like, I mean, when I first started, like, I mean, I'm not saying I'm like a pro at video editing or stuff like that, but like when it was school projects, like you do little things here, and like, you know, you learn how to use Movie Maker or iMovie and all that kind of stuff, and everyone's like, whoa, this is crazy. Yeah. And then like you rip music off YouTube, and like, you know, probably doing a bunch of illegal stuff. But anyways, I mean, like there's some pieces like you know, like those Star Wars stuff that I make, whatever, like they're kind of stupid, but it's like there's some stuff like videos or edits or even photos that I do for photography that I don't really show to people, but like it's stuff that I'm, you know, now that I'm doing my renovations in my room and office, is I'm going to post on my wall. Like it's just for me, and it's, and I don't have to prove to anyone, or no one has to be liking it to kind of, for me to gauge whether it was good or not. It's just, I know that I was proud of that piece. Right. So I think that's kind of with you, right? So you got accepted to York U for a Bachelor of Fine Arts, but you never finished the degree. And then you went to Seneca at York for, obviously you said, the independent music, and then you went to Canada Christian College. So like, obviously, when, you know, like when we were in high school and people are like, oh wow, you got it to U of T York, a lot of people would frown upon doing something like that. What caused you to kind of do that 180 from going there to kind of just, you know, obviously you did go to another kind of arts program, but then you went to CCC. So kind of talk about that experience. So
when I went to York, university is nothing like you expect.
No,
and
it's true.
Anyone who's been in university or college can kind of agree with that. So for me, in the art department at York is actually really competitive. And at the time when I was applying for it, my art teachers in high school, they were awesome. I still have, I'm still in contact with some of them.
Yeah.
So they were awesome. I do think though that with the school itself, the high school, the curriculum wasn't, as I think it could have been better in preparing artists or like students who wanted to go into the arts in university, like myself. Because when I went into the art department and at York, it was the first week, and they were talking about like all of these terminologies and stuff that I had no idea, and I was like, what? I'm like, did everyone? Is this are you first year? Are you fourth year? Are you coming back for like your? I don't know. Yeah. So I was already behind, and that from the get-go, I already felt just depleted. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Yeah. And although the studio courses, like you were actually in studios working on projects and stuff, that I excelled in, that I really enjoyed, because that's what I wanted to do. Yeah. but it was in all the other things, the other
like
courses,
theory courses,
practical. And I just like, So from the first year, I was like, I actually dropped, I had to take an anatomy course.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the humanity courses, and I actually didn't want to take it, but I didn't know until after that I could have taken like astronomy. I wanted to take astronomy. I'm like, I could have been in the observatory in York. That would have been awesome. But I ended up taking anatomy and like watching this video of like a knee surgery replacement. I'm like,
a knee surgery replacement.
Yeah, I was like, am I gonna be? How is this? I don't know.
Yeah, There's
there's
a lot of irrelevant courses that you have to take, and I was the same way. Like I took sociology and criminology and political sciences in my undergrad, and like I get it. Like I know that they respect greats like Karl Marx and Durkheim, but I'm like, if these theories have been proven wrong and kind of just like outdated, why are we still learning about theory? And I'm just like, no one listens to these people, like utopia and all this kind of, I don't know, but I mean, it's true. Like I get, and you know what? I respect that because, I've talked in this podcast a lot about like our modern education system and how oftentimes it sets us up to fail. And like you said, it was in the studio where you kind of flourished more. And I'm not trying to be like a brat and just being like, oh, I just want to do the fun parts, but everyone learns in different ways, right? Some people are more hands-on, some people are more theory-based, some people will read the book, but I always kind of say, unless you've been in that, been in the field, have that experience, it's hard to put what you've read in a book to practice, right? Yeah. So part of art is failing, part of art is like, doing a piece and totally hating it, right? But really, what is theory really kind of teaching you, right? Unless you've done it, right? So I respect that a lot. So obviously, you did the program at Seneca, and then you chose to go to Canada Christian College. So why did you decide to kind of go more of like the Bible college route after you did like the arts program?
Well, I actually took a year off after the arts program. I didn't return, so I completed. I didn't drop out. I just completed the year. Not the greatest, but I did. And then I just knew I didn't want to go back for that program. And a friend of mine had done the program at Seneca, and he knew that I loved music. And so he spoke to me and he was like, I think you would really, really like this program. I think it would be really good, and you would like learn a lot, and you would take a lot from this. So I was like, okay. So I looked it up, and I was really interested in what the website offered and like what they said. And so I applied, and I got in. It was like the application process, like you have to record 3 songs, and then and you just like talk a little bit about them and like about yourself and stuff. And so he has his own studio, and so he helped me record some stuff. So that was actually really fun too, just being able to hang out with him and have him help me. And so I got in and I did that. I completed it, and that's when I first started performing music, and that was in 2012. From there, it's funny because it kind of overlaps with my actual, with my faith and a little bit about my testimony, because at 19 is when I made a turnaround in my life. And I was 20 when I started going to they call it the IMP program, at Seneca. Yeah. So it was at that point that I was really taking my faith seriously, and I was really, I really just wanted to keep learning and growing more in just my knowledge of God and of Christ. And so it was about halfway through that year that I remember we had a guest musician come into to Ossington, and they were just playing, like they had released some albums or something, but they were leading in worship, but then they were also just performing their originals. And
was it Dan McCauley?
I don't know.
That guy with like the spiky hair that won the convention?
With the vest.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't him.
Oh no, okay.
It wasn't the vest.
Anyway.
It was someone else. It was on an acoustic guitar. That's why, because he played the keyboard. Yeah. But I just remember I was watching them, and I just felt something in my soul just be like, that's what you have to do. And I was like, oh, what? Who? And then and so I just kind of like let it be, that like gut, that feeling in my gut, and it just every now and then it would come back, And around that time too, it was when I started obsessing over Carrie Job, and I was just like, she's the coolest ever. And so like I would just be listening to her and like all their spontaneous worship, and I was listening to a lot of other pastors and just speakers, and it was like every time that I would be watching one of these videos was when that feeling came back in my gut that's like, this is what you need to do. So I was like, okay. And so I brought it up to a few people, and I remember when I brought it up to my mom, I'm like, so I think I want to go to Bible college. And she was like, you know, my mom, she's like so excitable. She's like, Jessica, really? In serio? So that was actually really cute. That was awesome. And so when I decided, I'm like, yeah, I want to do a music program in Bible college. And at this point, I didn't know about a lot of Bible colleges throughout the Ontario. And so one that came up was Redeemer and University. And they apparently have a really good music program, but it's not exactly a seminary. It's just a Christian school, but you can take like secular programs there, and just like any program, like you can go and be, I don't know, actually, I'm just like, you can go and be a doctor there, but I'm like, I don't actually know if they have like a medical thing, so don't take my word for it.
Healed in Jesus' name.
So I was actually filling out the application form online for Redeemer, and then I just stopped because I was like, no, let me see. And Kara, who's our friend on the show earlier, she's like, how about this Canada Christian College? Or I think it was her, or no, it wasn't her. It was somebody else that mentioned it. But Kara knew the former dean of music at Canada Christian College. Nice. She's like, oh yeah, they're really good. They're really talented. They're great. And so with all this new information, I'm like, oh my gosh, well, was my mistake for starting this application process for Redeemer, like, was it wrong? And so I stopped the application, and I was getting emails from Redeemer. They're like, are you still applying? Do you still want to come?
Yeah.
But I never responded, and I like unsubscribed from their emails. So, but then, and so I was looking up the program at Canada Christian College, and I really liked that it was so close to home too, because Redeemer's out in Hamilton. That would have been far trek. And at this point too, I had my dog, and I'm like, I can't just leave him here. So, I was looking more into CCC, and so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna apply. So the first semester started. I was applying for the semester in January, the winter one, in 2014. Yeah. And so it was December, and I was like, oh my gosh, is it too late to apply for January? And so I just wrote an email, and I sent the email to the dean of music, and he actually responded right away. And he's like, you know what, come in next week for an audition. And so I was like, okay. Yeah. So I went in. It was like a little test, like a little sight reading test, and you play, and he just wants to see like where your levels are with either whatever, like vocals or guitar, whatever instrument that you're applying to get into for study. And so he responds to me. I went in and I had my audition, and then he sent me an email like 2 days later, and he's like, okay, you can start. And like it was like 3 weeks right before the semester starts. And and that was like, I think that itself was the confirmation of the school that God wanted me to go to.
You open up doors, yeah.
So that was really cool. And because of my background at Seneca, I had some courses that I actually just transferred credits over. So instead of a 4-year program, I just did 3. Yeah. And that was really cool. And that was really amazing. I have met so many incredible people, and I'm still friends with so many people. Awesome. And it was actually through the school that I got involved in the missions organization. It's World Missions Outreach, and they're located in Nicaragua. And they specialize in, they have a school there, and so they teach the kids of the school in like low-income families, and they just teach kids about like agriculture and just being able to support yourself and like learning traits that you can do. You can, get a job. Awesome. They teach you how to plant. They teach you computer skills and like all of these skills, basic skills that are, we take for granted here, but over there would really open up doors for their future. These kids.
It's also relevant to their context there, right? Because it's like, why would you go and teach them like, sociology, right? It's just that's what that goes back to my point about education, right? At least they're teaching them skills in crafts that they're gonna actually use and make money, right? Because I mean, like, I don't really foresee you like getting a job if you're teaching them sociology down there.
Yeah.
Teaching them how to harvest their land and all that kind of stuff, I guess is good, right? By the way, if you guys hear a lot of drilling and like hammering, that's my grandfather. He's renovating the basement. Obviously, you guys know we're renovating the my office downstairs to record, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe if I noise reduce it, you won't hear it. But in case you're wondering, the house is not our stomach. Yeah.
We're not hungry yet.
So you actually you had an opportunity through the program to actually meet Paul Baloche, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Paul Baloche is like one of my inspirational like worship leaders, and I had the opportunity to meet him because CCC hosted. They host a lot of like concerts and stuff, and so they'll have Lecrae came in that one year that you came,
that was dope.
and they'll have other worship artists coming in, and like sometimes they do like a little workshop, which is like really cool for the students in the department. So we actually got to do a little workshop with Paul Baloche, and he came in. Awesome. And then afterwards, I was just like talking to him, like, I'm a really big fan, and I kind of give him my story about like how like I really write music, but you know I perform in like these other places and stuff. But he was such an encouraging person. He's genuinely a really nice person.
That's awesome.
And he's just so like, oh my gosh, his encouragement is all just, you know, it's spirit filled, and it's like, wow, tell me to have a nice day again. I feel it.
He's not just like a stuck up celebrity or anything.
Yeah, no, he's so down to earth. And so when I met him, he actually put on a Christmas concert, and he was releasing his Christmas album.
Oh, nice.
And so he had my art department, my music department up on the stage, and we were the choir. We were singing backup for him. So we were on the stage for a few of the songs. And then, so that was the very first time that I met him. And then later on in the year, I found out about a workshop that he was having down in Pennsylvania. And so this was right when I graduated, though, in like 2016. I was like, you know what? I want to do something. I just want to like do something out of my comfort zone. And I really want to just be spontaneous. So I bought tickets for this workshop, this like worship leading workshop. And so I was like, I don't know, I'm going to get there, but I have my driver's license. I have access to a car. I'll just drive myself down. So I did. And that was a really incredible experience. I got to meet so many people. That's like another story. Just like my like 2-week trip into the States and just like driving around. I met a lot of people, and I was able to meet him again in person. And he remembered me. He's like, have I met you before? And I'm like, yes, you did. And so that was really awesome. I was fangirling. I've never like fangirled before, but
no, it's cool. I went to when Lecrae did another concert down in Toronto after the one I went to the CCC. I paid like I don't even remember, but it was a lot of money to do the meet and greet, and like I got to talk to him, and like, and the thing too is like, you know, I guess they're kind of used to the spiel of some people, but I mean like Lecrae's not that I'm not saying Paul, how do you say it? Paul Baloche is like, he's huge, but I mean like Lecrae gets like fangirls all the time, or fanboys, if that's a thing.
He's like of this time now.
Yeah,
Paul Baloche is like, he's from like early 2000s.
But I mean, like, I'm sure they've both experienced it, but like, you know, you went up to him and like, you're trying to say something that doesn't sound like everyone, like, oh my God, you changed my life. Oh my God, your music's amazing. I said a few things, but I mean, like, even I get it. Like when I went up to him, I'm like, and then, you know, you take the picture, then you like post it on Instagram, and like, you know, you're like, you get rated because of that, but
all the likes.
So kind of to take a turn of kind of the topics we're talking about, and it kind of relates to kind of your lifestyle, because you like traveling a lot and you like going far distances. But something some people might not know about you is you're in a long distance relationship. So for our listeners or our viewers who are just kind of maybe like currently entered into a long distance relationship, or thinking like, you know, oh, I'd never do that, like, what encouragement can you give to people? Like, how do you make it work?
Communication.
Skype.
Skype. If that doesn't work, there was this app. So I was in China, and there's this app that they use in China called WeChat, because there are a lot of restrictions on other social media apps and applications in Asia, or in China specifically. So WeChat's kind of like the WhatsApp. And so I had like WhatsApp, I had WeChat, I had Facebook, because I had a VPN, so I was able to access all my accounts and stuff.
Because they monitor your internet,
yeah,
though, right?
they
It's
do.
crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's just like Google's blocked.
Oh, okay.
So and so he had like he downloaded all the same apps too. And so like if one wasn't working, we would be like, okay, try this one. Okay, try WhatsApp. Try Skype. But we really it was a little difficult with the time difference.
Yeah.
It was like a 12-hour. At first it was 13 because of before the daylight savings, and then it was 12-hour difference. So we really had to figure out when was the best time that we could talk.
Yeah.
And it turns out he's a morning person and I'm
Yeah.
a night owl, so that just worked out like in his
With the time
mornings and like
difference,
late at night when I was home from like work or whatever, we would talk. And it was actually really cool. There's this other app, it's called Rabbit.
Okay.
That's RABB.IT.
Okay.
And you can it's like Skype, but you can it's like kind of Chromecast with Skype, and you can actually
you put on
watch
the TV.
movies together.
Oh, really?
So
Wow.
like you see it, it's screening like Netflix or YouTube or whatever. There's like a website or just any browser, and you can like put it in, and then you see
their
like
reactions.
their face. You can see their faces. So we actually started watching. We would watch movies, and then we're like, you know what? Why don't we just start watching like some? We can start doing devotionals like this.
Oh, nice.
And so we had started watching a few series on Right Now Media.
Yeah.
And there was one that was called Jonah one, and that one was really cool.
Yeah.
It's funny though that every single time that we wanted to do like our little devotions and stuff, the internet was like lagging or something was like up, and we're like, not today, Satan. But it eventually like it worked out. But yeah, communication was the biggest thing. I struggled. It was hard for me just as much as it was for him. I mean, for me, like I was constantly on the move. So I was like, I was like distracted and I had stuff, but I know he was back home and, his daily routine at work and stuff. And usually like the time that we would normally talk on the phone or something, like I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so, I think it hit harder. It hit harder for him, for both of us. I'm not saying, but I think just because I was constantly on the move, like I was like bombarded with things. And so I was just not, I wouldn't think about it as much.
Yeah.
Hold on. That sounds wrong. Not to say I didn't think about him. I just mean like, I was just very distracted.
Yeah.
And, but I thought about him all the time.
Yeah.
I thought about you all the time.
Shout out, Andrew. No, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you guys got together and then you just went straight to China, right? So it was like right after you got together.
Gosh.
So it's like, hey, let's do this relationship thing. Bye. I'm going to China.
Actually, so we met online on Christian Mingle, and we started talking right before I was about to leave for Pennsylvania for my 2-week trip. So we were talking. He's like, hey, here's an idea. Why don't we meet? So he lives an hour and 20 minutes northeast of Toronto. He's out in the Kawarthas. Yeah. And so he's like, well, here's an idea. Like, why don't we meet? And I was like, I'm leaving for the States for 2 weeks tomorrow. I'm like, but here, add me on Facebook. And so we would talk every day for the 2 weeks. None of my friends or family texted me while I was in the States. Wow. And that was just because like,
Melissa?
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Melissa, watching you. It was just because, I mean, you pay money for that. And he actually went to school in the States. And so he lived in the States for some time. So he had a plan on his phone that included unlimited like phone calls and or I think just texting. I don't know, phone calls to the States. So he was I'm like, hey, well, I'm a little lonely on the road. If you want to text me, I mean, not when I'm driving, but like, I'll just like respond to you.
She's lying. I'm joking.
And so yeah, that was 2 weeks that we were actually talking every day. And that was really cool. It was just like super casual. And we were just like sending each other memes and like, if you have you ever
That's how
heard of
every
business-
2018 like modern relationship starts. You send each other, it was Vines, like, and that's how my sister and Jonathan like basically fell in love. Like, they send each other memes and like Vines.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. There's this one thing in particular was this business cat. Have you seen those comic strips?
Like the angry
like,
cat?
No, it's a cat that's like, he's wearing a suit and he works in a business, like a corporate setting. And there's like other people that are humans, but he's just like this human body. and like a cat head.
Oh, okay.
And then he's just like, he has cat quality. So he'll like, there's like a little comic where he's just like, there's a bunch of papers on his desk and he's just like looking at it. And then like it progresses and his like paw comes onto the table. And then the last one, he's just like, and it's like on the floor. Anyways, I don't know why. Like we thought that was hilarious. So we're like, I think we were just
basically what this whole conversation shows is you never have to meet anyone in person. You could just have a meme Skype rabbit relationship. You never have to see. No, it's gonna be virtual. Like you never have to visit. No, I'm joking.
From there, we met when I got back in person for the first time, and it was actually the first day that we met. He came to Toronto, and we went out for lunch, and then we went out to a cafe. But it was that same day when we were walking that I just felt like, I'm like, you know what? This is me. I'm going to tell him, because we had this plan. My cousin and I had this, we had just graduated. So we had the opportunity to go and teach English in China for 6 months. And so we had already decided that was what we were going to do, or for a couple of months. And then we were going to do some backpacking while we were there. And so the first day that I met him, I was like, I'm just going to tell him, because you know what? Like, I'm not expecting anything from today, because it's the first time I'm meeting someone. So I'm just gonna be like, so I'm thinking of going to China to teach English for a couple of months. And he was like, oh, okay. So he knew like from the first day that we met that I was thinking of this. And so, and we met back in October, and then we kind of dated, or like we would go out and like hike and stuff, or just like he invited me to like a concert at his church, and that was really cute. And then we were official like a month later. So, and then it was from November and towards December that we started doing all these like documents, and like all the process and stuff for China. And so I think that's when it started getting like more real. It was like, oh my gosh, I really am leaving. And I think I haven't actually asked him about that, but I'm pretty sure he was like, oh my gosh, she really is leaving. So he knew we had only been dating for a couple of months by the time that I was heading over to Asia. But it was really difficult, but it was a huge, like we learned so much about one another. And I think that it helped that we still had that even if it was like virtual, just like being able to see each other, and you get to know someone on a different level when you're not physically in front of each other. You're forced to communicate your feelings. You can't just like see someone's expression and be like, girl, what you thinking? Like you actually have to be open and be the one to be like, look, I was struggling because, this is what was going on in my mind and this and that. And so we were just open, and cards are always on the table. And that was that helped a lot. But then I came back, and he's been very happy, and I've been very happy since.
Shout out to Andrew. You gotta eat. That's the good thing though. I mean, is finding someone who, like, I think he's also realized your type of commitments, where God's taking you in your lifestyle. Like a lot of times you travel, a lot of times you go on mission trips, but I mean a lot of guys would also just be like, okay, I just got with this girl, I don't know if this is gonna work out, but he's stuck with it, right? Because and that's the thing, when God's at the center of things, like I heard someone say, like, it's like a godly relationship is like a triangle. If you're this point, you're this point, then as long as you guys are pointing towards God, you'll meet together, right? So as long as that's the foundation, and it seems like that's how you guys stay together is it's bound to be successful, right? Because just having to, like, even putting in the effort to make that different type of those communications work, it just shows you how much more worth it was. So when you guys came together in person, when you could see each other physically, it was that much more, and I guess I'm at a loss for words. It was that much more like, worth it, right? Because then, you'd already developed that, and it's sacrifice, but I mean, the good thing about sacrifice is there's always a reward at it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So one of the things you kind of touched on a bit was, the missions trips you went on, and even China. So having traveled to a lot of countries, how have these experiences kind of changed your view of the world?
It's definitely opened up changed my perspective on just the way the cultures and societies and stuff. It's different. There are a lot of things that are similar to Western society, but there are a lot of things that are very different. I had to learn along the way. I had to actually research before going there. For example, Thailand, like there are some things, you know, that we normally do just like subconsciously, like pointing with your toe. Like, for example, if your hands are full and you're like, someone's asking for, oh, where's this? And you like kind of point with your leg or something, or even pointing with your finger. That's like, wow, that's like offensive there. So you have to, there are things that it really just opens up. It opens you up to just being more aware and conscious of other countries and not just other societies and people that, and mannerisms. That's a big thing too, because it might be the norm here, but it's not there. True. And you can easily offend someone. And and you really just want to be sensitive to that, to not be offensive.
Yeah. So we kind of touched a bit about it a little earlier, but you know, some people might not know that, you know, that you lost your dad especially at a very young age. And the way you exude joy today is, you know, people might not be able to tell that you suffered a loss. And then you talked about how around 19 is kind of when you kind of got serious with God and got your relationship better with God. So when that happened, when your dad passed away, were you mad at God?
Yes. Yeah. My dad was sick. He had liver failure. And so he had been diagnosed for actually since 1997. And my family didn't tell us until the early 2000s. Wow. So we were young, so you don't want to be telling like an 8-year-old like, oh yeah, he's sick. Them, yeah. So they didn't tell us until later on. And I do remember vaguely my dad always going to the hospital, and like he would come home with like the wrist wrap. Yeah. And so I would always be like, oh, he hurt himself. He was an electrician. So he would always he would hurt himself sometimes, because he was just very, he's a very hands-on person. He was a very hands-on person. And so like there was one time I remember he came home he went to the hospital because someone had this like ornament of a stone on a shelf, and he bumped into it when he was fixing something, and it just like fell on his head. Oh shoot. So he got I don't think he got stitches, but he came back with like bandages, and I'm like, what happened? So it was normal to see him come back from the hospital. Yeah. Shout out to Canadian healthcare system. Yeah. So, and so he passed away when I was 12, and I remember there were complications at the hospital. He had received a liver transplant, but then there were just some other things that happened, and he was just very weak, and his heart stopped, and they couldn't resuscitate him on time. And so I do remember going in and seeing him there on the bed, and he was brain dead, and that was really traumatizing. Yeah. So I was angry because there were some things that God had already done. That, for one thing, the liver transplant, the liver itself was actually, the one he was getting was large. It was larger than his normal, than his liver. And so the first thing that confused me was that we had been praying for a miracle, because we're like, this is the liver, but like it's Lord, like you need, you've given us this liver, and we need to, it has to, you have to work. Mesh, yeah. It has to fit. And so they came back again and resized it, and after praying, it fit, and they were like, oh, well, it fits now. Yeah. And so they went through with the transplant. So that was like the big thing. I was like, wow, well, God resized the liver. I'm like, why did he take his life? And so I was frustrated then. And I was 11 years old right before. So like, I just didn't understand, or 12 years old, sorry. And I just didn't fully understand. And at that point too, growing up in the church, you hear the same things over and over again. But you don't fully understand that. And for me, like the Holy Spirit just hadn't revealed, the knowledge of the truth to me yet. It was more of just like, oh, here, like these are Bible stories, God does this and this. And so like, it, but you don't actually know it. And so when he passed away, I held a lot of resentment towards God. And I was like, well, why didn't you heal him? Like, why else are we going to church for? Like, this is what you do. Yeah. And so I just went through a dark path, because I was just like, I don't really think I want to care about going to church then if this is what happens, if this is, you know, God doesn't heal people after praying, or like he picks and chooses. I'm like, then I don't want that. But so I started middle school. That was when I started middle school. And so I, you know, was going towards the wrong path and like wrong friends. And I really just cared for just this validation that came from, it's just vanity. And that's really all I cared for. And it was just very empty. And it wasn't until I was in my last few years of high school and my first year of university, which was actually at York. And I really just, I hit rock bottom with relationships, and just I was hurting so much, and I just didn't understand, and I felt all this guilt because you know, like I had this resentment, and I was like angry with my dad, and I like was never able to apologize, and I was just like there was just like this storm of emotions in my heart, and I couldn't even pinpoint what they were or like which one was overpowering the other one. But it was when I was 19. I got out of a relationship, and that was a very painful moment. And so my mom was like, "Oh, there's a convention coming. Are you going?" And I was like, "Oh, I really don't want to go." But she's like, "You're going." And I'm like, if you know my mom, she's really nice. But when my mom is like angry, she's like, yeah, it's like the storm clouds just coming. You're like, ah. So. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's pretty terrifying. Yeah. So, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll go. And so I went, and that was really where I really experienced everything that I lacked from an earthly father that I was seeking out in empty relationships is what I found then in Christ. And he just embraced me and just showed me this fatherly love that I had been lacking, and I just didn't understand it because I was so young when I lost my dad. And so I was like, I don't even know, like, what does a father do? Like, especially during the vulnerable stage of your teen years. And I just didn't have that. And, but I'm so thankful that I had my mom there, and she picked up both the fatherly role and the motherly role. And she just did. I'm so grateful for her. She had a lot of patience too, because I was a very rebel child. So yeah. But and from there, I remember that's just where I really experienced God, and I was like, this is real. This is God. This is who he is. And it was from there that I began to understand more of him, just growing and learning more about his attributes. And I look back, and the biggest thing was that he removed all guilt and all shame that I was feeling before. And he's just like, that's not you. This is the enemy that's playing tricks with your mind. And, you know, like, my dad's not suffering anymore. He, you know, he knew God. And so he's there, he's in heaven with him. And I rejoice now because that it was through the loss of my dad that I was able to find God, on my own and really understand him. And I think there's a difference when you grow up in the church, and when you spend time away and you have to learn, you can be told the same thing over and over again, but you have to kind of go through experiences, and you have to really just, sometimes you have to go through the tragedy to really understand and really meet God. And not everyone, it's not like that for everyone, but I know for me it was. And so since then, that's really when I really took my faith seriously. And then that's when I proceeded to attend Bible college. But I knew I wanted to take a year off before the music program at Seneca, because I really just wanted to work on my faith and work on myself. I didn't want to just jump in and be like, all right, I'm ready to learn. But I just really wanted to spend time in prayer and just really grow as an individual of faith. And so that's when I started going to Bible college. But I am really thankful, as like morbid as it sounds, I'm really thankful for the death of my dad, because I was saved through that.
Wow.
So I thank God for that.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing is, you know, we look through a small perspective on our life and just from our own view, but we don't see what God sees. Yeah. And the thing is, it's kind of like that paying it forward concept, where like you pay it forward and someone pays. It's like you don't know what one action will catapult and spiral into another action. So like, you know, we view that from a very limited perspective. Like, obviously, like I'm not, you know, putting aside that it's hard to deal with. It's painful, but then it's like, but you don't see the perspective of God, and God's like, you know what, you know, who knows where you would have been in your faith if that didn't happen, right? And there's always some good out of bad, and you know, bad is bad, and it happens. It's life, right? And that's the thing people don't understand about, you know, Christians. They think we're all happy all the time, and life's just like sunshines and rainbows. But a lot of it is struggle. A lot of it is pain. But out of that, you know, there's, you know, there you grow, and I've always said that, and I continue to say is that failure and hardship, they define and refine you into the person you are today. And who knows where you would have been? Maybe you might have been a little bit too comfortable and not have gone to the college, you know, the Bible college route, right? You might have, you know. So I really respect you for that, and shout outs Teresa. You know, Teresa's been like my second mom, and when I think of a strong, faith-filled woman, I think of your mom. And like, I mean, not that I'm just like a mama's boy and I think my mom's like, everyone thinks about their mom like that, but like your mom is one of those moms where I'm like, she's in that category where I'm like, you know, even today, and even, you know, pursuing her dreams, and, you know, I think it was like 10 years later when she prayed to get into the field she's in now. Like, God's been doing a work in your guys' family, which is, the thing is, sometimes we think so inwardly, like, this struggle was just that God was using it to refine me. No, God used your family struggle to be a blessing and to be a testimony to other people. So to even live your life in a way like that, and that's why I always remember is we're living, walking, breathing examples of Christ. So the way that it's not to say that, you know, at home in our personal time that we might have a struggle with this situation, but it's like, you can either show that you're just down, or you can show people that you have joy through it. And that's the difference between happiness and joy is happiness is temporary, but joy can happen in spite of pain, right? So if you could go back in time, what would you tell grade 9 Jess Spagnolo just about to enter high school? If you can go in the DeLorean, take a time machine, go back, what would be like one thing you would say to yourself?
Oh, don't think of yourself as worthless. You have value. Wow. And you won't find it in people.
True. Facts. And I said that in the last episode, is we define so much of our identity in those few years. And it's not to say that I don't still have some friends from high school, but it's like we try to please so many people. But it's like, you know, you've become yourself kind of sometimes in solitude. Like you developed yourself. You had to take that year off. And you know what? Like I would say the same thing to myself is stop putting your identity in these few people who are not going to be in your life, or in any area of your life. Stop putting it in people pleasing, right? So. All right, so we reached that point in the episode where it's rapid fire. So first thing that comes to your head, Pepsi or Coke?
Water.
Okay. Advil or Tylenol?
Advil.
Spring or fall?
Summer.
Okay. Stephen Furtick or Carl Lenz? Ooh, deep theological questions right now. I'm joking. Neither? Just trying to be diplomatic in case they ever hire her.
Pastor David.
Hey! Chris Tomlin or Matt Redman?
Matt Redman.
Hillsongs or Bethel?
Bethel.
NLT or NIV?
NLT.
Okay. Favorite thing you've ever painted?
I have a few.
Okay.
The elephants one. There's a rose that I did.
Yeah.
And a fish.
Okay. Oh, that one that you have right now on.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm throwing it back with this one. Sims 1 or Sims 2?
Oh my gosh. Sims 3.
Sims 3. Okay.
Yeah, they need to have their fingers separated.
I'm telling you, she could have a whole podcast episode just talking about Sims.
I used to speak Simlish.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, I'm joking. Actually, I put this question in already, but we kind of already answered it. I was gonna say Mexico versus Italy in the FIFA finals. Who are you going for? But you're going for Mexico. Favorite dish from China?
Oh my gosh.
If you had to choose
there was one thing, I don't even remember the name. It was these glass noodles dish that was served with potatoes. It had some vegetables in it, but there was something about the sauce that it was almost like a yellow curry sauce, but it was so good.
And like Chinese food is actual Chinese food.
Oh my gosh.
It's like imitation.
Yeah,
right?
this is nothing. You have to go to China to actually have food. Oh, so good.
Most awkward thing about living in China?
Oh.
The toilet system.
How do I say this without making it sound bad? China's a lovely country. But I know people hate and love it. It depends. Like it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
That's how we say it. So one of the things that really irked me was their hygiene.
Yeah.
When you go to the washroom, washing your hands is optional.
Wow.
And also there is no soap.
Oh my gosh.
So I was just like, I carried sanitizer religiously. I was like,
yeah,
I would like sanitize everything. But yeah, that was awkward.
Wow.
Oh no, that's not the awkward thing. The awkward thing was that their bathroom stall, there's one washroom once where the bathroom stall was like up to the chest. And I just walked in and this lady was standing pulling up her pants, but like we made eye contact and I was just like,
yeah.
like, and they also have squatter potties. So
wow.
Yeah.
Acoustic or electric guitar?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I love the things that you can do with an electric, but I do love just how intimate an acoustic can sound.
True. Favorite place you've traveled, local or international?
International, Cambodia.
Mm-hmm.
But it's tied with Denpasar in Bali. That was so beautiful. The history in Cambodia was amazing. The ruins. We went to Angkor Wat that was like thousands of years old. It was incredible. Yeah. And just to think of like at the same time, like Jesus is walking the earth, that they're like building the ruins. I'm like, yo, like what was happening at this time? It was a party over here. But locally, favorite place.
The court, that's not.
There's a lot of really beautiful places that are just like outside of the city is really beautiful. So I can't really answer that one.
Yeah. Okay. Favorite book you read or are reading?
I finished a book called, actually I'm not finished. I'm almost finished, called Radical by David Platt. And it's a really great book. It just talks about, this American dream, as it says on the thing. It's a westernized dream of living comfortably versus going out and stepping out in faith and sharing the gospel in places where they don't have the same freedom that we do and they're in persecution. And it really just puts everything into perspective of materialism and just like things of this earth that really have no value in eternity. And so that I love that book. That's a great book.
Awesome. Favorite song right now that you're listening to?
Oh, you can't ask me that. Hold on.
Quick. Rapid fire.
What was I listening to? I was recently listening to The Weeknd. What's it called? Games. Was it Games?
The Weeknd. I feel like, and people can hate me if I say this, but I feel like The Weeknd is like, in terms of like vocal quality, is like our Michael Jackson this day. So yeah.
I've said that before.
Like, imagine if he was Christian.
It's a vibrato.
Who is one person that everyone should go right now and follow on Instagram or check them out?
Lauren Daigle.
All right.
I'm her like number one fan.
Favorite nickname for Miko, your dog?
Bobo.
Most influential person on your life?
Oh, my life. It has to be my mom. I know that's just like a typical answer, but
nope, everyone
really
says this on this episode. Yeah. I'm gonna compile like a list for Mother's Day and just do that.
Oh.
If you could go back to a single point of your life, like what day would that be?
Oh.
When you were deep into The Sims 3.
You know what? I first started Sims 1 at Daniel's house.
Oh, wow.
So that was like the pivotal moment in my life. In the basement on his like desktop, the huge like white desktop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks, Daniel, for that.
If there was a movie on your life, what would the title read?
Typical.
And if they couldn't get you to act out in the movie, who would you want as an actor today to play you?
I would probably want Jim Carrey. Yeah.
That's so true. If you guys know her personally, she's crazy. But if you could have coffee with anyone from any point in history, dead or alive, who would it be?
Francis Chan.
Francis Chan, yeah, super dope guy. Name a song that when you hear it, it puts you in your feelings.
Fix You by Coldplay.
Fix You, oh yeah, true. If you were stranded on an island, what 2 things would you want with you?
My guitar and my Bible.
What style did you rock that you look back now and wish you never rocked?
I went through this grunge phase when I was 17. Do you remember my band? I used to be in a band,
yeah.
Box of Silence. Gosh, please don't ever look me up. So embarrassing. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Do you remember those bracelets that were like the plastic? It was like black plastic or like different colored, and then you like intertwine them and like.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was like rocker chick. I thought I was rocker, and I would wear like Converse and like these really disgusting jeans and just like this like graphic T-shirt that I actually bought at my own store, which was a men's clothing store. Oh yeah, that was a bad time.
Favorite food of all time? Pad Thai. Okay. Where do you feel most out of place?
Most out of place. China.
If you could like when you die one day, what would you want the biggest thing that people remember as your legacy?
I would want them to see that everything that I've accomplished wasn't because of a degree. It wasn't because of money. It wasn't because of something, but it was just because of my genuine passion and love for what I did and the empowerment that I got through God, through the Holy Spirit. So just my reliance on God.
Awesome.
And, yeah.
So lastly, what's the title? If your life was a book, what's the title of the current chapter of your life right now? If you could summarize it in a title.
What's next?
What's next? Hey, okay. All right, so you survived rapid fire. So it's now guest corner. So this is your opportunity to shout out any projects, businesses, anything coming up, anything you want to say to our listeners, guests, last thing you want to say. The mic is yours.
Well, I do a lot of performing throughout the city. You can catch whatever shows that I do if you follow my Facebook page, which is Jess Spagnolo Music. So I'm always posting there on any upcoming shows and concerts. My art page is Jess, which is, it's a little artistic, but it's JXSS. And I'm always posting progress on my art, and a lot of commissions I post there as well. And I take commissions as well. And my website, Society 6 website, is linked through both my Instagram and my Facebook page. That's society6.com//JXSS. And you can follow me on Instagram. It's my personal, I have a personal page, and there I post all my art, my music, and just personal life. But then I also have an art Instagram, and that's just specifically art.
Yeah.
So you can follow both if you want to stay in the loop on my art and on my music and just in my life and see pictures of my dog. So, yeah.
Awesome. And I'm going to drop all the links in the description below. So that wraps it up for our show today. But before we go, I'd like to give you, our guests, a word of encouragement. Just because sometimes, you're super busy and you don't slow down to hear, or sometimes people could be super humble and they don't take encouragement. But one thing that I wanted to start with is that you're multi-talented. And I think that benefits everything that you do in terms of, being an entrepreneur and all that kind of stuff. And one thing that she put in her prelim, when I have the guests kind of do a little prelim on themselves, is she says, I'm an aspiring entrepreneur. And I disagree with that. I think she's a current entrepreneur. I think she is an entrepreneur. I think she's a successful entrepreneur. I think, like you were talking about being a starving artist or whatever, but I don't think being an entrepreneur is how much money you make, but I think how diverse your offerings are. Like, you commission art, you play at, across the Toronto and GTA, around the GTA, in terms of, playing at gigs. I think that you have a lot to offer to, I even seen that you have your art pieces at that restaurant Stacks. Like, you're putting yourself out there. So I think you are a successful entrepreneur, and I'm excited to see how you continue to grow that. And what I like about you is that you're unconventional, and that's the kind of place where I'm entering into my life right now. I'm going to be making a video soon, guys. You kind of get to understand where I am in my life right now. But even me, like I was climbing the corporate ladder, and I'm realizing now that I'm just more unconventional. Like, I'm making more money on photography now and all that kind of stuff. And you don't have to be at a desk and do that for 20 years and make a ton of money you can enjoy what you want to do, and you might make a little less money. But I think that in terms of like your mental health and just your overall well-being is sometimes better, is because you're doing something you love. And when you're working, it's not that you're just making it for, you know, money's sake, but you're making it because you're proud of that, right? So I think I respect that about you. I think your ability to factor faith into your everyday life and passion is super inspiring, because like, you know, and you're unashamed about that. Like I see on your social media, like I love how you're connected with nature, but also recognizing how you can apply that to the Bible. I think a lot of Christians don't realize that, like, God told us to take care of the earth. And, you know, I mean, you know, Amanda will probably, like, you know, basically get on everyone's case for recycling, but even I have to remember, like, you know, I got to recycle more. But I mean, like, I respect how you connect your faith to like your art, your music, and even some of your songs. Like, even like, you know, obviously you've written worship songs and stuff in the past, but even some of your songs that are just mainstream that you perform on gigs, they're not explicitly saying Jesus, but they're faith-filled. And like the crazy thing is, people who are non-believers are singing those, and who knows how it's impacted them, right? And then when you get to tell the story about it, you know, it's an opportunity to witness to people, right? So I respect that about you. And just your heart for people in the world. Like I see, you know, going on mission trips, like a lot of what you do is denying yourself, because you could be here, you know, with Andrew, you could be here with your family, you could be, you know, doing all this stuff, but you're not just traveling just for, I mean, obviously you have fun and you travel, but you're not, I see the majority of the time, like when you're doing something, you're going somewhere, it's because you want to offer your skill sets and your passions to help people. So I think that denial of self is something that is so uncommon in our society today, because everyone wants to be about them. But I see the way that you have a heart for people, I think is just going to carry you continually into the next phases of your life. So yeah, it's just wanted to say that to encourage you.
Thank you.
And you know, I'm glad to be on the side seeing how you're developing and growing into the person you're going to be. So and just seeing your growth from, like you said, like when you were younger, middle school, to even high school, when your life changed, like, you know, you've seen me going from, like, you know, bad relationships, all that kind of stuff too. So long hair.
Ponytail.
Yeah. By the way, guys, for the people who can't watch this and you're listening to it on iTunes, I shaved my head. No, I'm not going through a Britney.
Touch it.
I'm not. I'm not going through a Britney phase. It was something I wanted to do. I had a few bad haircuts, and it's actually really nice. I like it because I don't have to style my hair for these episodes.
You feel the wind.
Yeah. But Jess, I want to sincerely thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you.
And just thank you for blessing us with your presence here on RCT.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt.